Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our entitled parents. In today's episode, entitled aunt thinks she gets my child? Entitled great-grandfather who was absent for my childhood magically appears now that he's old. Dad expects me to text him, call him, and update him daily. Feel like I'm going crazy. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled aunt thinks she gets my child? So when I was 17, I got pregnant, and the father didn't want anything to do with it, which was fine as we weren't even dating. I intended on putting the baby up for adoption because I wasn't ready for a child, and I'm sure there is lovely people out there that could love and care and provide for my baby. However, my aunt, who already had 6 children, 5 boys and 1 girl, for some crazy reason, automatically believed the child would be hers once I gave birth. She was also a terrible mother, so there's no way my child was going to her. I asked my parents if they had told her this or anything, and they had no idea. All they had told her is that I was pregnant and was going to give the baby up. I found all this out when I went to hers for my cousin's birthday. She made a comment about how she was going to have to make some room for the baby, and I asked, "Wait, why are you pregnant again?" She laughed and then told me, "No, when you give your baby, silly." At this point, I literally thought she had lost her marbles. I told her no, I was giving my baby up for adoption. She just laughed once again and said, "Sure, that's what I'm saying now." I continued to clearly tell her, "No, you are not having my child. Like, this isn't some of can I borrow your Barbie doll, this is literally a human." She just continued telling me I'll change my mind once I meet my baby. I gave up in the end because she just would not accept the fact I wouldn't give her my baby. When I went into labor, my mom told my grandpa, who told my aunt, and she turned up at the hospital waiting for me to give her my baby. I was pissed and told her to leave. She finally left, and it was the weirdest experience of my life. I'm close to my cousins, and so I have seen her since, but I haven't really properly spoken to her since. My baby girl was stillborn, and it was devastating, and I know my entitled aunt made some comments to my parents behind my back, but to this day I refuse to find out what she said. While your aunt is insane, I had something similar happen when I was pregnant with my oldest. I was 14 when I fell pregnant and 15 when my daughter was born. My mom's mom always wanted another grandchild, but my mom wasn't fit to carry another child, so she decided to claim my daughter. Even offered me money to sign her over to her. This woman spent all day, every day drunk off her ass. No way I was letting her get her hands on my daughter. She made my life hell, even calling the police when I got a sitter for a few hours. You are a strong woman. How'd this get so many votes in less than half an hour? Hello, I am Shaven Turtle. I'm so sorry for the loss of your baby. I know you were planning on giving the baby up for adoption, but I'm sure it was still tough. I see that you have 2.53 children now. Do you feel like you got past it? Seems to me like she was expecting you to want the baby, sort of, once you gave birth. Oh, you'll change your mind. You'll want me to raise the baby so you can see them and everything, 'cause you'll fall in love the moment you see her. Still really shitty that she wasn't listening to you and just showed up at the hospital to collect the baby like her lotto winnings. Yep, exactly what I was thinking when I read that. My heart sinks at the thought of what her awful aunt said behind her back after. What a despicable human being. Entitled great-grandfather who was absent for my childhood magically appears now that he's old. My great-grandfather, who is now 90 years old, reconnected with my grandma about 20 years ago after being absent for most of her life. He was an abusive father to her during her childhood. I've only seen him about 8 times in my entire life, and he's never bothered to attend any of our childhood birthdays or even call. No one was preventing him from contacting us, my siblings, grandma, parents, and myself. Within the last 5 years, his wife passed away, and he has since become quite burdensome on my grandma, his daughter. Recently, my grandma had knee replacement surgery, and instead of being supportive from a distance, he invited himself to stay at her place, making the situation even more burdensome for her. Now, My mother is pressuring me and my siblings to attend a dinner with him, emphasizing that he's getting old and that family should make an effort. However, I'm struggling with this. I feel like it's unfair for my mother to expect me to make an effort for someone who never bothered to be a part of our lives until his sunset years. How do I communicate this to my family without coming across as an inconsiderate, emotional jerk? I want to be respectful of their feelings, but also stand firm in my decision. Any advice or similar experiences would be greatly appreciated. Thanks in advance. You can be honest and say that you don't have any interest in having a relationship with him for the above reasons. Keep your tone even and stick to those points. You can't control how others will react, just how you deliver. Best of luck. You can be honest and say that you don't have any interest in having a relationship. The family needs to come together and put forth the effort to send this guy back to wherever he came from, or on to wherever he is going next. He wants someone to mooch off of. My mom always pushed us to have a relationship with my age-absent deadbeat father, especially before he died. I had to have a serious sit-down conversation with her stating that for my love for her, I could be respectful to this person, my father, if we had to interact. I also needed her to understand that it makes me extremely uncomfortable to be forced into a relationship with someone whom I could see harming, or at the very least being an inconvenience to my loved ones. He, in my eyes, is a stranger who is hurting my family, so best I can do is be distant and keep the peace. 'Cause I could talk mad shit, and I've always been able to cripple people with my words. Maybe just talk to her and see that helps. Best of luck. Mom, family should make an effort? What effort has he ever made? He's no one to me. I'll not attend, and if you force me, I may say things you won't like. It's best for all if you just leave me out of it. Loser absent family don't suddenly get a pass just because they're old. Dad expects me to text him, call him, and update him daily. Feel like I'm going crazy. Hi everyone. I, 25F, have read through a ton of similar posts on here, but wanted to write my own as I feel like I'm going crazy and need some external opinions. My parents divorced when I was 2, and my dad has always done his best to be in my life. My older brother and I used to love spending the day with him every Saturday. At some point, when I was around 12 years old, my older brother stopped coming. My mom and dad had some bad custody/child support fights early on, and my older brother sided with my mom. I tried to stay neutral to avoid hurting anyone. From there, until college, I would visit my dad alone. He wasn't too pushy about texts/calls, but would always cross into overprotective. He would text me almost daily to check in, and on the few instances I forgot to answer, out at a friend's, fell asleep early, was sick, he'd text my mom and demand to know that I was okay. A few times, my mom was asleep as well and didn't answer, and he called the police to my mom's house in the middle of the night. Our relationship started to get really bad right before college, and we were fighting all the time, but he always attributed it to me being a hormonal teenager. I think it was because I was struggling for more independence. My first year of college, he lost his high-paying job and all his income. He had to move in with his mom, my grandma, to a different state, where they still live together now. She is immunocompromised and he takes care of her, so they both have essentially not left the house since COVID. He is set on looking for virtual work and has been doing nothing but studying daily, sleeping weird hours, and applying for jobs for the last 5 years. Not even exaggerating, they don't do much else. I haven't seen either of them in 5 years, and he says he isn't ready for me to visit because he is ashamed of the situation. Our current schedule is as follows. We speak on 2x a week on a set day and time for 1 hour each. Both of these calls end up going way over an hour, and he guilts me when I try to wrap up even though I have things to do around the house, fitness classes, dinner to make, etc. During this call, I am not allowed to walk, clean, cook, be outside, or do anything besides sit and listen. If he hears any noise in the background, he gets angry. When I try to push back on this, he says that I probably waste time on 100 other things and can set aside 2 hours or more a week to speak. We don't have much to talk about as I don't like to tell him about my life. He likes to debate or turn everything I mention to him into a negative or life lesson. I have been in an amazing relationship for almost a year that I haven't had the energy to tell him about because I know he is going to find a million things wrong with it, e.g. he is a different religion, which is apparently the worst thing in the world, even though I am not religious and neither are my boyfriend or dad. We talk about my job occasionally, but I'm not interested in climbing the corporate ladder or learning the games he wants me to play. He doesn't have anything happening in his life either, as all he does is study for open roles he finds. He usually spends our phone call talking about the mistakes he's made in life and about how I should avoid them, current events and politics, and things going on in the career world. I'm not really interested in the things he talks about and don't want to follow in his footsteps, so I mostly just stare at the wall, listen for 1.5 hours, and try to sound interested. In addition to these calls, he also wants me to text him within 15 minutes of arriving to work, 2 days a week, different from the above days, and text him when I am home from work, before 6 p.m. If I'm running late, I have to call him and let him know. For reference, my commute is a safe and easy 20-minute ride. I also have to answer his daily nighttime check-in text asking me how things are going, if I have any questions, if I am home, etc. Within 30 minutes. I'm not on my phone often and missed responding on time to a few of them, which led to some really bad fights. We eventually settled on me texting him myself every night, once I was home and not planning to leave. Lastly, he wants me to let him know if I go out on the weekends and text him when I'm home, which I think is fair. One important thing to note is that when I first moved into my own place a couple years ago to be near work, he had very strict rules about where I had to live. Doorman building with cameras, safe part of the city, etc. all reasonable, but expensive. I was doing well for myself, but couldn't afford those amenity buildings on my own. Think NYC, where you can find affordable apartments in okay areas on a decent entry-level salary, but not the amenity buildings in very nice areas. My dad agreed to cover the rest and did so for about a year and a half. A few months ago, right after I resigned for another year, he told me ran out of money. I've been putting all the extra on my credit card, which he promises to pay back once he gets a job. I don't know when that will be, and of course will not be resigning unless things turn around, but I'm kind of stuck in this situation. I wish I could say that this is the only reason I want to keep the relationship with him. Money is not worth a bad mental state. I can't say that it doesn't make me anxious, but I could end our relationship and walk away with a few thousand in debt. The truth is that I feel bad for him, and he makes me feel guilty if I don't put him first. My parents are European, and he says it's a very American mentality to not put your family first, that I should want to call him often and should feel bad if I know he is worrying about me, that if I can text him to let him know that I am okay, that I should. I've tried to ask that we cut back on communication and how much he relies on my responses, but he calls me selfish. For reference, I have an excellent relationship with my mom and her side of the family. I call her to chat almost daily, and we talk about all the things in her life and in mine. She knows and has met my boyfriend, and she has my location, so she always knows when I'm safe. She doesn't force anything on me and doesn't turn everything negative or into a lesson. So I love telling her about my life and keeping her updated. When I try to explain this to my dad, he basically insinuates that if my mom isn't checking in on me regularly, she doesn't care. Even as I'm typing this, I can see that it's not healthy, or is it? I feel like I can't get an objective grasp on this. He says he is much better than most dads. Is this true? Is this a cultural thing? I just don't know what to do. I don't want to cut him off or end the relationship because he doesn't have anything else, no other close friends or family besides his mom. I love him a lot. The financial tie doesn't help. It's easy to suggest setting a hard boundary, But he always follows with, "So you're okay with knowing that I'm stressing out, and there's something you can do to fix it, but you won't?" Do I just say yes? I feel like I can't do this forever. I hate being attached to my phone and constantly anxious. I am reaching my breaking point. I really don't know what to do. Does anyone have a couple words of advice or confirmation either in support of my side or of my dad's side? Thank you in advance and sorry for the length. As a European, it's not a European thing and he is worse than most dads. He's a selfish bully and a terrible person, or at least someone who needs professional help. I don't know what you can do because he doesn't sound like he will ever expect any boundaries. Appreciate the non-American point of view. Lastly, he wants me to let him know if I go out on the weekends and text him when I'm home, which I think is fair. You're 25. How is this fair? How is any of it fair? Bluntly, it feels like he wants you to feel his pain about losing the life he had and being tied to his mom. Set some stricter boundaries and enforce them. Effectively, you need to slowly wean him off reliance on you. Example: Dad, I'd really love to keep talking with you, but I need to get to the store now. Dad, I'm 25 and having to report to you like I'm 16 makes me feel weird. I can't do that anymore. No, 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 girl. This is not an American thing. This has nothing to do with culture. Your dad is just downright controlling. I grew up with an ultra-conservative, religious, controlling father. We have been in no contact for 7 years, and it is absolutely blissful. I put with his demands until I was about 30. Then I started setting boundaries that he just stomped all over. So I cut him off when I was 35. I wouldn't think too much about the money he owes you. If he hasn't gotten a job in 5 years, he isn't getting one anytime soon, so I would mentally write that off as a loss. What kind of breakdown is he going to have next year when you can't afford all the amenities he demands you have with regard to your apartment, and you have to move into a cheaper place? I would imagine this behavior is what contributed to your brother not wanting anything to do with him, and probably to his divorce as well. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.